Happy New Year. We have two terrific poets with us today, Peter Carlaftes and Kat Georges. Peter will read first and then Kat. Peter Carlaftes is a publisher, poet, author, and actor. His books include three poetry collections, Life in the Past Lane, I Fold with the Hand I Was Dealt, and Drunkyard Dog, two collections of plays, Triumph for Rent and Theatraphy, and the humorous multimedia book, A Year on Facebook. His poetry has been published in numerous journals around the world. He is co-editor of the annual Dada Writing and Art Journal, Maintenance. With Kat Georges, he co-edited the Have a NYC Mystery/Noir short story series. He also edited The Faking of the President, 10 Stories of White House Noir. He is co-director for Three Rooms Press, a New York-based independent publisher inspired by diversity, Dada, punk, and passion. He lives in New York City. Here's a marvelous poet, Peter Carlaftes.
Thank you so much, Harry. Bye-bye, Kat. Kat and I are what we call co-independent. We just think about it. That's us. All right. So I will begin with a poem from my second book. It's called I Fold with the Hand I Was Dealt. And I'll read the first poem in that book. It's called Run for Your Life. Come down to the den, stepfather and mom, easy chair plants, table lamp between them, cigarettes and ashtray, jar of peanuts between them, cushion of suburbia, what am I, 11? Zenith color console ahead. Stepfather thumbs through the TV guide, stops, smirks, stands, seems pleasantly surprised, spins the dial, sits, monotonous American, let's rip out the wall and look at his tools. A show came on called Run for Your Life. Stepfather beamed, here's your dreamboat, hun. This smug little ditty drove mom to snap. The hell you say? Who told you that? Stepfather, deflating, sputtered, but I thought you loved Benghazi. While mother denied the passion, stepfather presumed, I slid off the couch and shuffled to bed through a door hung for wages. Thin-paneled failure, time to grow up. Along the way, I lived below some other trouble too, when wisdom spread over the echoes, revising what happened that night in the den, you see. Mom held no torch, so she got to thinking, just who was this woman he thought her to be? And sure enough, when she left, he soon wed another. Well, images run for your life. I remember the day he cut my hair around a plastic bowl. Mom drew hair back on my head with pencil eyebrow strokes. Be that as it may, beyond nothing belongs. Between each still, the fours find all. All right, and that's from I Fold with the Hand I Was Dealt. And I'm going to read from Drunkyard Dog now. This is quite Bukowski-like. I was a bartender, so some of them take place behind the bar, some of them don't. Some of them take place on the other side of the bar, and some are just fantasies, which are fueled by drinking and on both sides of the bar. And this is called The Exquisite Taste of Clear Bile. 4:45, 20 below, one bartender with brain light blinking, lock the door, when of course said door burst open, wielding a brazen behemoth sporting a dark blue snow-dusted peacoat, who was promptly employed a curt, close to your pal. He corkscrewed up, wrapping claws around the rail. I leaned over and sighed, give it up, my good man. He broke the rail, lifting it skyward like a paralytic Thor, while using his other paw to wipe off the snot sickles frozen to his face. I warned this swaying mass, I have a gun behind the bar, trailing the rhetorical, should I shoot you now? Then my tongue lash. You may find this hard to believe, buddy, but the proud owner of this shithouse is 10 times the asshole you are. And now I've got to tell him how his precious little bar rail was cracked off by Mighty Joe Dung. Peacoat passed me the pole and, lowering his head in lament, dislodged a phonic burp. I snapped, here it is, pal. You pay, then you drink, then you get the fuck out. He slipped off his coat, covered a bar stool, and grunted, "Dewars on the rocks." Closing my eyes, I saw the owner filling the dewars the day before with cut-rate booze. Sadly, I served Peacoat. He sucked up the drink, ice and all. His eyes jumped Jackbox Weasel. Then he puked clear bile across the bar. As he rolled away, re-rigging his coat, he turned and said, "Buddy, that wasn't dewars." No matter how far gone he was, he knew his shit, man. The guy knew. And he was right. Okay, I'm going to move on to another poem from Drunkyard Dog. It's called "The World Smiles With You." I can't remember exactly what happened that night, but apparently what happened was, while driving home drunk at 3 a.m, I stopped my car and fell asleep smack in the middle of the Golden Gate Bridge. 2 cops swore under oath that they pulled up behind me, banged on the window, and the first thing I said was, "Your Honor, I'm waiting for the drawbridge to close. Then I will proceed to drive home with caution." They testified that I told them I gave my keys to a stranger in a bar who said he'd drive me home. So after falling asleep, I could only assume that he stopped the car on the bridge and dove off the side to a watery grave. My lawyer is calling me to the stand. The courtroom is one big smile. I think these people like me. All right, that's Drunkyard Dog. And I'm going to move on to my latest book, just came out in September, Life in the Pass Lane. So you can get a copy of that in any bookstore you like or online. If they don't have it, just tell them, "I want Life in the Pass Lane," and they'll order it for you, I promise. And I'm going to go on to another, when I worked in a nightclub here in New York, and more Bukowski-like as well. But this happened per second, the truth, everything in this. It's called Impermanence. Every Sunday night after working at the club, Dick and I would buy the racing form, then drop by the Queensboro bar to figure out Monday night's triple in the ninth, or the Monday's triple in the ninth. Sunday was the only night you could buy the form a day in advance, so we thought we had an edge, though we lost every bet. Earlier, we decided to skip this week until Dick, while staring out at First Avenue, saw a guy drop a $10 bill, and of course he ran out and grabbed it. So we changed our minds and went to the bar, this being our lucky night, where we figured the EGB triple with Bob Dunham horse on top. I put Dick in a cab and took another home where I slept till noon. Later, I went to the OTB and bet the $1 triple box, EGB, and shuffled hope thinking I was out $12. At 5:30 sharp, I dialed the OTB hotline to hear the letters EGB. The triple paid $1,200. I hung up and called Dick. His girlfriend sobbed, "Yes." I squealed, "Put Dick on the phone." She cried out, "Dick's dead." Apparently, Dick rode that cab to a card club in the Bronx. Then when he got home, his heart went just like that. I cashed my ticket thinking one day we all lose, although there in the meantime, I hadn't lost yet. Impermanence. All right, what do we got time? We got a little time. I got another quickie here, and then I'll read another short one and I'll be done. Maybe there's 2. No makeup date. This is poetry for a poet's sake. I went to Vesuvio one mid-afternoon and ordered a pint of beer when Lawrence Ferlinghetti, whom I heard had just turned 80, sat down on the stool next to me. I nodded my head and he nodded back, so I proffered, "You know, the last time this city had any real bearing was when all the sailors returned through the gate right after World War II. He looked at me and said, I was one of those sailors. The stage was set. I reached for my beer, which spilled across the bar. His people rushed in and whisked him away like I had every plague in the world. Little old me sitting sober as a judge, why I hadn't yet taken a sip from my glass. Heading home then, I thought we only get one chance, but at least they didn't charge me for the beer. Here's another one, final one from Life in the Fast Lane. Not all of this is bad. Last subway stop, train grinds to a halt as I exit to the front through the station. The conductor gets off just steps ahead of me. So feeling a moment, I barked at him, "You the conductor?" He answered yes, turning slightly. So somewhat incensed, I chided, 6 years ago, you shut the doors in my face. And he shrugged, I know, haven't slept well ever since. And that was that. Then we rejoined the world. I guess I still have a little time, so I guess I can read one more. I'll read one more poem from here, and then I have a final poem. So it's called For When This Mournful Road Abruptly Ends. Every single day, the media squeals 10 shot dead at the local mall, and there wasn't a bad bone amongst them. Though the killers are revealed a bit more complex. First, the family avows they never saw this coming. Then their coworkers admit we didn't know they were so flawed. And each victim remains this pillar of hope, full of fountains of dreams, unconditionally loved by all, not only by their kids and their own stepkids, but even their exes' stepkids. Now, I've lived with our lot getting on past 60 years, and it's rare when you cross paths with one virtual soul. Most are clutching theirs on top of coveting what's mine, even thoughts and prayers. So if that's how I go as a mass shooting victim, let it be known how I'd like my testament to read. Most of the people who knew him were surprised he wasn't the shooter. Or better still, whatever my end might be, he was so far ahead of his time that maybe it will have the chance to catch up now since he's gone. All right, Life in the Fast Lane. And I'm going to read one final that Kat and I belong to a poetry group. We write a poem every day and with certain partners. So this one will be my final piece. Well, I've still got plenty of time, but should I go on? Okay, well, I'll read this now and then we'll find something else. Psst. Hey, kid, come here. Look, opens trench coat. I got cheap passage to America, the latest experiment in democracy, where you can basically do whatever you want. Kill natives, steal land, own slaves, impede the equality of your own brand of women. You've got 50 good years, then another 100 of manifest destiny and industrial revolution. Take. It's an excellent deal. Be the envy of all. Set policy. Break it. Ignore the oppressed. Pass down the pride. Better jump on it, kid. The time of your life but awaits. All right, well, I'm still going here, so I've got to find something. I guess I'll read. Should I read Rico? Okay, she says, read Rico. That'll be enough time to get me out of here. So I'm going to put the glasses back on and I'll read Black Carpet Treatment. This also happened second by second. Working at the same nightclub I was working in when poor Dick died. So it's called Black Carpet Treatment. I often spend livelong days musing those nights in bars. Hell, I spent half my life once bartending joints owned by skin-tight pricks, my choice specimens being Rico and the claptrap he operated 5 flights below, cheap to no end, called the Showcase. Even bums on the street shook their heads. Each day I opened the doors for business. The only thing that tempered the long hours of toil was Rico's voice. His crackling harmonics scraped the ear in high-pitched overdrawl like W.C. Fields burdened by a chronic backache. I started working on my Rico impression at home. The seeds of my fancy truly came to blossom the night Rico emceed the show to a congregation of born yesterdays. I never could fathom what possessed anyone to set foot in the showcase, but this night was beyond priceless. The pre-show air tittered electric. The spotlight hit center stage. Rico rolled up his eyes and stuck out his chest. When he pushed in his butt, the room howled, asking for more, so Rico built them a dream. Do you know whose career began on this stage? The hush spread awe among the spellbound. Proudly he revealed, Andrea DeLauren sang her first song on this very stage. DeLauren was only a budding hopeful, yet each eye kindled such reverence, you'd have thought the headliner was Jesus. I became so totally preoccupied, perfecting my Rico impression, that people thought I was nuts. My shining moment came when Rico let me MC the show. I gave that crowd a Rico impression to die for. Do you know whose career began on this stage? Klaus Barbie killed his first audience on this very stage. The only chuckle came from a comic backstage, so I gave him a rousing intro and returned to duty behind the bar, then quickly fell out of love with the hard buck. And as my days bartending the showcase dwindled down, I lucked onto a job in a real nightclub where most of the guys knew Rico. The whole crew loved my Rico at first, but love is ephemeral. So I put the bit to rest until one day a payphone painted me a picture. I called the showcase. Rico answered. This is Rico. I said, this is Rico. He asked, who is this? I said, it's Rico. He said, I'm Rico. I said, I'm Rico. He said, hold on. I heard him inform the cook, I bought steaks on sale, but they smell bad, so serve them with pepper sauce. When he came back asking, who is this? I was flush. My Rico now had a new life. The guys went gaga later that night. 2 captains, 4 comics, and a waiter positioned themselves anxiously around the other extensions while the phone rang. Rico answered. Live shows were in progress at both ends of the conversation. Rico said, this is Rico. I said, this is Rico. He asked, who is this? I said, it's Rico. He said, I'm Rico. I said, I'm Rico. He said, hold on. Man, oh man, were we crying. The mad round mounted as surprise guest star, his wife Dorothy, no deep thinker, took the phone and asked, who is this? I said, it's Rico. She said, no, it's not. I said, it's Rico, your husband. She said, Rico's here. Who is this? The customers found us more entertaining than the undercurrent of comedy on stage. Once back, Rico asked, is this Chucky? I said, no, it's Rico. He said, I'm Rico. I said, I'm Rico. He said, hold on. We were holding our sides while people at the showcase underzealously applauded some day's comic coming off stage to the raging Rico rally. We love you. They love you. Come back. Then intimately, Rico cautioned his wife, see if that chicken's cooked on table 20. Anyone else would have hung up immediately, but Rico returned and asked, who is this? Pandemonium broke loose. Busboys were on the floor, and nothing else mattered except talking to Rico. I'll always remember that golden night he cascaded into the showcase, followed by a funny little fat man, weighed down with paint supplies. They stacked up the tables and chairs and painted the rug over pitch black with old rollers. Somewhere in mid-stroke, Rico muttered, you can't believe what they want for a carpet these days. Yeah, those days, those nights. Hell, I spent half my life once. All right. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Peter. Your poetry is inventive, humorous, poignant, authentic. You have a heart for the working class, which I love. When did you begin writing poetry in a serious way? When did you write your first poem?
Late 70s. Late 1970s.
And how old were you
1978. So.
And what is it about the poetry form that attracts you to it?
I was heavily influenced by Bukowski and his need to not have as much, to be more of an autodidact than to be, in a school or, something like that. So it gave me a chance to develop my own persona, my own poetic voice. And so that, that was my early beginning, certainly.
Where did you grow up and where were you raised?
I grew up in the Bronx and years and years ago. And so, that was not the streets of the Bronx were not where I wanted to be. Let's put it that way.
Well, now you have a press, you and your cat have a press and you're a playwright, among other things. What is a day like for you in New York City? I mean, we live out here in LA and I lived in New York from 63 to 68. You mentioned you live on Bleecker Street. I remember I used to always go to the Bleecker Street Cinema. I even lived for a while in the Bleecker Street Hotel. So I know that area. What is a day like for you?
Well, we're busy putting our books together now. We're not doing as much theater. When we were out in San Francisco, we had a theater and we used to, that was what our thing was to do. For like 9 years, we had a theater that we built sets and we didn't have a kitchen or a stove. The stage was our stove. That's where we did our cooking on that. But here we're living a little more normally as far as living is concerned. But we do put out 7-8 books a year. We have a small staff, and it's the same kind of love. We do a lot with very little. Kat and I, we just love what we do, and we continue to do it, and we love each other, so that keeps us going.
Well, you live a creative life.
Yes, that's what we do. But we don't drive. I think that's a big deal, a big thing. So come on in, Kat. I'll swap chairs with you. We don't drive, and to me, that's something that we when we first got together 30 years ago, they towed both our cars off within a month, and we said keep them. They said, "Well, pay your tickets or we'll keep them." And we both said keep them, and we haven't had a car since. So that's kind of been a part of what we are.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you're making a Dada journal with the poetry and the art. It's international. And what was the reason you started that? And then just tell us a little bit. I see your list of places you read and present the magazine around the world. Just tell us a little bit about that. I love that magazine.
Well, the first one was published by a man called Arthur Cravan, and he was the nephew of Oscar Wilde, and his real name was Fabian Lloyd, but he became so many different things. He fought Jack Johnson, but was knocked out immediately. And he's just somehow was the precursor persona or non-persona of Dada. And he published the first Maintenant in 1912. I think it was April 2nd, and started peddling it around in a wheelbarrow. So he's sort of a muse to us. So we began the series with number 2, although he did publish 4 more. We didn't want to start counting that way. 1 was enough for him. He, 100 years ago. But we published now from number 2 to number 17. This year will be 18. And he was our, inspiration, his original
But Dada, the whole Dada movement was also an anti-war movement. And that, I think, is one thing that we can contribute through this labor of love that we do, is our contribution to the madness of war and the madness of so much of the world, the modern world. So I think Dada
how it all works. The economies work off war. It's just it's enough. So we're going the other way, and we're creating a family.
And in our mind, Dada never died. Dada just kind of transformed into the beats, into surrealism, the beats, punk, and this is our Fluxus, of course, and then this is our moving on and moving it forward. And our last tour, we weren't able to go anywhere because of the pandemic. So our last tour we've had 30 years together, 20 years living in New York, 5 years married. So we went big. And we started our first show for the 2023 tour was with you in Los Angeles at Beyond Baroque. Then we did shows in London, Paris, Corsica. We did a poetry reading. Rome. We did a poetry reading outside of Zurich, and we did a Dada show also in Zurich. We came back to New York, did 2 giant Dada events at the New York Public Library, and then we did 2 more online events for a total of
and San Francisco.
Shows. And San Francisco, we just got back from there in December.
I booked 145 readers. I mean, this was
true.
I don't know how they all showed up. There's a couple of them.
All of them, people showed up, and we found places to perform in all these different cities. This is all non-grant funded. At least
it's our, like I said, our labor of love.
We're trying to get Dada out there in the world and get our books out there in different places, and we'll continue to do so as long as we can.
And 250 artists and writers that belong on these pages, and that belong in the world and can create more belonging. That's what we can do.
You're Dada dervishes.
That's us.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, you mentioned Dada, and then you talked a little bit about surrealism. Is there a difference between Dada and surrealism originally?
Well, originally, the Dadaists wanted an international kind of family-like thing, and they started arguing amongst themselves. And then the surrealists came along and started arguing. So I don't, let them be whatever they were and what they want to be. They all belong just as well as we do. So I don't have any. I don't want to point out the differences. I want to move forward and have more belonging. So the past is the past, and I have a book, Life in the Past Lane, but our Dada is contemporary every year.
I love that book, and I love the title, Life in the Past Lane. Well, you're just fabulous, Peter, and so now it's our time to...
It's time for Cat.
It's time for Cat, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful reading. Cat Georges is a poet, playwright, editor, publisher, and graphic designer specializing in digital, interactive, and book design. Her books include 2 poetry collections, Awe and Other Words Like Wow, and Our Lady of the Hunger, a collection of plays, 3 Somebodies, plays about notorious dissidents, and several chapbooks including Punk Rock Journal and Maiden Claiming. Her poetry is also published in many journals around the world. With Peter Carlaftes, she co-edited 2 collections of mystery and noir short fiction, Have a NYC 1 and Have a NYC 2. She is co-editor of the annual journal Maintenance, a journal of contemporary Dada writing and art. She lives in New York City. Here's a wonderful poet, Cat Georges.
Thank you, Harry. So I just want to dedicate my reading to Bob Biederman, who just passed away. He was a great artist and one of the artists that really established. He's been around for so long, and he was really a crossover, a big lover of poetry, a big supporter of ours as well. So that said, here we go with some poems from Awe and Other Words Like Wow. This is a beautiful cover by Susan Shoup, an artist who lives in Paris. So let's start with Awe. A child laughs, and so it begins. A day, a glow, a fortune in joy. Trees embrace your eyes with their magic. Beneath the ground, roots talk to your toes. This is not a rainbow day or a saturated sunset, simply the splendor, a breath, an answer. On days like this, the human voice cracks the air, and each voice, each word, even the most mundane, sparkles because it is full of life. Life, that game of who can breathe the longest. Life, that sudden merging of infinitesimal with infinite. A jigsaw puzzle, which for a time sits on display with no missing pieces, till the dog begins to sneak a few away. Sky blue, blood red, air the color of a transparent rainbow, endless and limited. Life, where you get a chance to soak your shoes in a puddle or eat a slice of pizza or raise your voice at a cloud and shout, why, why? 1 minute, then marvel that clouds and minutes even exist. This too is the marvel. This too, and this. Shout a big fat holy wow. Ain't that wild? Ain't that cool? Yes, and yes, and yes, yes. Okay. So this one is dedicated to Anne Desjardins. It's called Practice Makes Perfect. To create something as perfect in originality, form, shape, scent, and effect as a rose, velvet petaled hue of warrior blood, a gardenia, gentle spiral, thunderous aroma, a peony, radiant, harlequined, melodic bouquet, dancing shades, midnight moons, stare down suns and stars, breathe fire, exhale glaciers, gently pet a porcupine. Fierce strokes, no erasures, ink or paint, destroy pencils. Envelop waterfalls, drink ideas of children and weeds. Skip through cities and old growth forests, quake earth, shake clouds, spell everything backwards in your language. Read a kitten's palm, laugh, practice love until you know its secrets, forget and do it again. Everything you create is as necessary as a lily. You're not the gardener, you are the garden. Perfection is your practice. I hear your song in every wind, but only if you sing. Roses, sit for a minute, stay. Let us sing sad songs to each other about the dreams of endless golden days in pink cottages overlooking sandstone cliffs. Dreams where we perched, you and I, sipping iced green libations, watching boys become men mastering waves, kissed by gentle salty breezes as sun breaks the marine layer. And roses begin to petal the sand, slender in their sunglasses, sneers, and neon bright bikinis. Let us brush each other's tears off as our childhood disappears, as our days of glory wash away, as we become the faded faces no one in our dreams can see. Let us hold each other as we chant the lengthening list of loss. Let us help each other remember stories, to distinguish the gone ones, to flash them to flesh for a second. We are part of those stories we must remember. So much pales in time like shells on the beach, bleaching what once was distinct to a blur. Let us pledge, you and I, that we will not be a blur. We will vibrate with passion, grateful, electric, each breath a part of our limitless tale. Okay, and we had the pandemic, and of course, we needed to come out of that. So this is inspired by that. It's called Bounce. Let's talk about renewal. Let's talk about the bounce. When you get that light step, when you meet the street striding high, when negative seem like a joke and you wear problems like removable tattoos, knowing they're only as real as they look and looks can be deceiving. Renewal. When you stare at the sky and shout, why not? Then get started drawing maps showing how you get from where you are now to where you are not now. You pack your suitcase with people who get in your way and throw it out the window. You are not on this earth to be happy or sad. You are here on this earth to be you in all your glorious flaws and fat in the wrong places and a tooth or two that doesn't glimmer like a blank piece of paper. Your teeth have lived. You have lived, and you turn off the notifications of the mild achievements of others who'd make you so jealous you'd hold up your phone to a mirror and cry because you'll never look like any of them. You keep going when all you want to do is pack it in and play video games, watch movies, or sleep, sleep, sleep. You keep going when the last thing you want it to do is shuffle off to your dull job, cash your lousy paycheck, stare at the walls and try to figure out how to make the stack of bills smaller than the dollars left in your bank account. You don't want side hustle. You are full, complete. This is me hustle. You want to do the hustle. You want to dance past that pass that everyone sinks into and get your arms around a big fat dose of this life and say, here I am. Come and get me. All right. And I wasn't going to read this one, but I want to now. It's called... This City Cathedral, about New York City. Here in this magnificent city, sunrises and sunsets are our stained glass windows. We live surrounded by massive rivers of holy water. The choir is a jazz band in a basement around the corner. Our pews are subway benches and bus stops, our altar, bodegas, where money turns into whatever you need. We measure communion and pizza joints by the slice and sip wine at dive bar happy hours when it's cheap. And the rich are holy spirits we never see. And the saints are everywhere. Cab drivers and bartenders, caretakers guiding around the old around town, women pushing strollers that have someone else's baby, neighbors helping tourists find their next adventure. The saints perform in tiny theaters with tiny audiences. They read poetry in bars and stay for the bands that follow. They ride bicycles and deliver food in the snow. And you can pretend that they've all disappeared because of disease or crime, or just because someone decided that the world used to be different or used to be better until the liberals ruined it, or the conservatives ruined it, or the media or money, or the young or old ruined it. But I'm here to tell you, this city is still a cathedral. And yes, I feel holy right now. Okay. And this one goes out to Michael McClure, who was a big influence on my writing and also my decision to host a lot of poetry readings. It's called Bigger Than Life. It starts with a quote from one of his poems called Stanzas Composed in Turmoil. We are deep inside, dancing in the car roar, dancing on the beaches in the car roar. There is a time for joy and a time for sorrow, but now is a time for molecular emotion. Quick, before the robots multiply, we must embrace what we are deep inside. We are universes expanding ever further from the molten core we once all shared, driven to drift and divide, filling the spaces between us with ever more junk, distressing the trail of plums we left behind to remember our way home. We forgot the way home, the way back to commonality, the place before our divisions and revisions, that starting point of fullness, before the rumbling urge to stand apart, before the goal became exceptionalism, all we once were together, before we forgot the way home. We are driven to drift and divide. The goal is exceptionalism. Our leaders are influencers. Their goal is exceptionalism. Our churches dissect us. Their goal is exceptionalism. We forgot the way home. And deep inside, we long to remember. The robots are coming. The robots are coming. They will succeed because they will show us to what they say is home. And we will follow them, laughing, snapping selfies, exceptional one and all, even in the way we fall headlong together at last over the cliff. Okay, this is called Kaboom. Our lives are hard to know. Each time a flower bursts to bloom, kaboom, another drifts away. Petals fade from gold to brown, yellow to ash of age. Some dry and slowly disappear. Others turn to seed and scatter. A few are plucked from us in the dark. At sunrise, we turn for our usual look and kaboom! Nothing's there but memory and perhaps a few leaves like letters from the days we referred to them as perennials, certain to reappear, something you could count on. Better gardeners than us detailed them online. Kaboom! Unsubscribe! Doesn't anyone tell the truth anymore? You, now stuck in your winter, surrounded by leafless trees, hard earth, the calendar that ends long before the memory will on the counter. Count the empty vases. Push them to the back of the cupboard like summer clothes. No flashes of color left to fill this gray day. Okay. Here's one. This is dedicated to our country. This is America. We meet on the dance floor and boogie down to the evening news and the latest trending social media rumors between idle chatter about which celebrity died today and the weather. Exchange notes on current medical status, exercise regimen, pluses and minuses of city living, latest books, concerns about the future. We try not to dwell too much on the future. This is America. We live in the moment. Scrappy optimists with little sense of history. We are bar crawlers, rock and rollers. We are Harley Davidson and Peterbilt. We are DIY. We let the rich figure out the 5-year plans. And no, we won't ever be rich, just scraping by with our smart TVs, our smartphones, our smart appliances, and all the mobile security apps we can handle. Keep our cars safe, our homes safe, our bodies safe. Well, 2 out of 3. We don't talk about bodies much. This is America. We live in a land that worships youth and football, calls sex education grooming, then destroys the futures of pregnant teens by forcing children to have children. It's all love and morality till the baby is born. After that, you're on your own. This is America where good health is not important. We don't want sick people in this country. And when a cure can prevent serious illness and death in America, we say it must be bad for you. Only idiots take vaccines. And if you seriously think everyone dies, we've got religion to prove you wrong. We will dance our asses off because this is America. We don't do anything half-assed, but no ass is a different story. This is America, and don't tell us we're living a dream. We will wake up and force you to understand reality is a dream. What we do is live free, and we've got the guns to prove it. Any questions? Okay, so I'm going to read a couple more. This one is new. This is dedicated to Nanao Sakaki. It's called Eat the Chemicals. Look at the yellow air. See how it cloaks gray glass cities in such a warm and lovely dusky glow at noon? And did you see the plastic blob in the Pacific? The colors, my God, more Warhol than Rembrandt, so very modern. At night, the light disperses stars and makes them difficult to consume. Good for the waistline to avoid eating after dark. Rainforests work much better in museums where you can delete bugs and snakes. And when lakes dry up, presto, enjoy the crack liqueur effect. I scan this wasted land and snap my fingers while tearing up photos of gorgeous nature that just make people feel bad. The future is bright and noisy and smelling. Everything has a purpose. Let's eat chemicals. Let's eat chemicals. I have 2 more. This is Deep Purple Dream. Give up control on the sidewalk, in the market, at the dinner table, on the dance floor, in the kisses, in the dream, the deep purple dream. Get out of the way, let it happen. Get out of the way, let love happen, let music happen, let peace happen. As the bombs fall, as the air warms, as the sorrow rises, the tears in the dream, the deep purple dream. Get out of the way, let it happen. It's not about control. It's about direction, memory. Follow the guide. Give up control. Leave the weapons locked up. Move the needle. Get out of the way. Let it happen. This is not what was intended. This was not what was planned. This is not what I wanted, what I thought I wanted. This is not my choice. Get out of the way. Let it happen. Make the call, then get out of the way. Pay the bill, then get out of the way. Start the poem, then get out of the way. The poem is in the air. The music drifts above you. Success is not drive, but driven. The urgent, the passions, the wind, even the wind. What will happen when you get out of the way? You. And my final poem is dedicated to Peter Carlaftes. It's called In a Time of Joy. In a time of joy, we run like children, careless, carefree on parks and streets. The laugh, the dance, the need for nothing, bubbly as champagne, buoyant as the cork, unbound by deaths of aged friends. Life is gravity. In a time of joy, we dare reality to catch us, knowing it always wins at the end, but in a time of joy, we expand. We are music, we are trees, we are history, rewritten without conquerors, kings, religion, wars, light, in dark corners, true as grief, bright as an autumn moon, rising, setting, waning. Okay. Thank you very much, Harry.
Well, thank you for such a wonderful reading. You're really kicking off this new year. Your poetry has love, it has wisdom, it has renewal. You know, you got hop, you got bounce, as you said in that poem, you got bounce and wisdom. And I love that line, practice love until you know its secrets, forget it and do it again. And you are just, you know, from the couple of the phrases in your, or one phrase in your poetry, vibrant with passion. And you give us also the vibrance of New York City, and you give us love in the last poem, among other things. But you're just fabulous. And, you know, Blake has a line, he said, energy is eternal delight. And that could apply to you. And I like that you live in the present. And I like that you say, get out of the way and let the poem create itself. I mean, there's so much wisdom and renewal and hop in your poetry. So thank you. And when did you write your first poem in a serious, regular way?
I used to tell people I started writing when I was age 4, and I just was rounding it off. But then after my mother passed away, my sister was going through all her papers in her bedroom, and she found a poem. And it was by me at age 4. So it was it was true. But I started writing seriously in high school. I just have something in me that always has to publish stuff. So I published a creative writing journal in high school, and edited a newspaper in high school and college, and published a bunch of different forms of chapbooks all along the way. And then we started Three Rooms Press, which Peter and I run, in 1994. This is our 30th year for that. And we started with the chapbooks, hand stapling them together, and just as a way of making containers for all the fabulous poetry we were hearing at different spoken word events. You know, a lot of it, you hear stuff and it goes and just flies away. You never hear it again. So we wanted to capture some of that. And in terms of just Michael McClure, I mentioned him. I was driving down the freeway in Southern California when I was living there on a Saturday back in the 80s, probably 84 or so. And he was on the radio station, and he read that poem, We Are in the Car War. And I was so moved by just the sound of his voice. And he has a lovely voice, and just the power of hearing poetry out loud, which is really what it's all about, that I just decided I had to start running poetry readings right then and there. And I think I've run now probably, 1,500, 2,000 poetry readings. I just love it. I love hearing people's voices and hearing poetry and being a part of poetry. Has a place, in this world that is very special to me. So there you go.
And could you tell us a little bit about where you were born and where you were raised, where you went to school?
Sure. I was born and raised in Southern California in a large family. We lived in Long Beach and then down in Orange County. And I spent most of my years as in high school and college trying to get out of Orange County because it was a little frustrating to live there and be surrounded by it was extremely conservative then, a little less now, but finally I went to school at Cal State Fullerton and got a degree in communications then, and then after I graduated, I was working still in Orange County for a little bit, but then my brother got married in Poland, and it was right after the Berlin Wall fell. So I went there, and I had saved up some money. But when I turned in, I gave them $100 to switch into the zlotys, and they gave me over 1 million zlotys back because it was like this perfect time where the amount of money you could buy for $100 was crazy. So I tried to spend money. I was staying in hotels, eating out every night. But when I came back, I still had some leftover money. So I did what anybody with leftover money does: is you move to San Francisco. So and there I met Peter, and we stayed there for 20 years and. Actually 10 years together there, and then moved to New York 20 years ago. And there's Peter. All right.
Well, you mentioned doing the theater in San Francisco. Michael McClure, did you ever do that play Billy the Kid and Marilyn Monroe by him?
Oh my God, here's such a funny story. This is hilarious. Okay, no, but the short answer is no. But Kevin Killian, a writer who pretty well-known writer, lives up in San Francisco. He passed away a while ago. He wrote a play and had a part for me in it. I played Michael McClure in this play. And I got all dressed up in a big cape and all this stuff.
She stole the show.
I had memorized my lines, and I was playing it big. I stole the show. Okay, I did. But anyway, afterwards, I got off the stage, and that's when I realized Michael McClure himself was actually in the audience. And I'm like, oh my God.
He loved her.
And he loved it. So it was great. And then after that, he wanted us to do Billy the Kid, but it just didn't work out. We didn't have enough time left in the theater to do it. But unfortunately, that was what happened there. But Michael McClure
was enough. It was a great moment.
Yeah, so it was good.
You two have really had such an exciting life: poetry, theater, Dada, among other things. What's you're
no slouch yourself, Harry.
Oh, thank you. You do your press. I mean, I'm just so amazed. We have a Cahuenga press, and we're getting ready to do our 30th book. You two have done, hundreds, right?
Yeah, we're on 113 right now of the
perfect
paperback books. And in addition to publishing the annual Dada Journal, we publish also literary fiction, essays, memoirs, mystery, science fiction, fantasy, a lot of young adult, diverse young adult. And so I cut you off. What were you saying?
Well, I can't remember what I was saying, but
you were on your 30th. Your 30th.
We're getting ready to do our 30th book, and what we do. It's not about our press, but it's about you. When did you two meet, and where did you meet? I heard you say San Francisco.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna have to. Where's the book?
Yeah. Well, we'll just wing it.
Hold on.
Okay. Peter wrote a poem about how we met.
And she can play her part. It's quick. It's 1 minute.
Okay.
Where is it?
I don't know.
Here it comes.
It was a good...
Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
I was sitting at the middle of a bar rewriting some of my poetry.
She was sitting at the end of the same bar writing too.
She leaned my way with no one between and asked me,
"What are you doing?"
I said, "Working on a poem." "You?"
She answered, "Same."
And right smack there, from that point on, we became creative partners.
30 years later, we are still writing poems.
30 years later, we are still.
I love that. Good. One thing I love about your poetry is you live in the present. And that's what acting is about, right? That's, existentialism, Absolutely. Right? Living right here, making each thing count. And you two are just such a wonder. Tell us a little bit about the neighborhood, the way it looks today. You know, I haven't been in New York City for probably 20 years. What do you have? You know, I remember when I was young, I lived on 25th and 10th in a 5-story walk-up, 3.5 room flat with a bathtub in the kitchen. What's your place like, and how's the environment that you live there?
Yeah,
we're in an old cold water flat, but we have a water heater now here in this century, so we're okay. And it was an old Italian building. There's still an Italian bakery on the ground floor. They are our landlords, and
Rocco's, and we live in Greenwich Village. We're keeping the fire of incredible creativity alive among all the accountants and lawyers.
I mean, it's a different world with everybody walking around New York with a phone, looking at a phone. You don't look at the life around you. But that's what's now, you know. I mean, they looked at us, the people who were our age then looked at us and said, what are these people doing with their lives? You know what I mean? So it's just the nature of change.
So, there's still
New York City,
baby. New York City, and there's still a lot of special places, and you know, we find them, and we're glad to be here.
Well, you know, when I was in New York, we would go to St. Mark's Church on the Bowery for poetry readings.
Right.
That was the first time I ever read in 1966. Is that still in existence?
They're still going. Absolutely.
They just had a huge poetry marathon on the annual poetry marathon on New Year's Day.
I think it was their 50th.
Yes.
Their 50th New Year's
12 hours of poetry, maybe more.
I think longer, but that's okay.
It's incredible.
Well, you two are just fabulous. You have so much vitality and so much great poetry, and you've given so much to the poetry community, among other things. So I just want to thank you, and Peter Carlaftes and Cat Georges. And I just want to make an announcement for next Tuesday. The marvelous actors and singer, the marvelous actors Corinne Conley and Kay Wiseman will read from their memoirs, and the wonderful singer and animation artist Ruthie Elliott will sing her songs. So thank you once again for kicking off. You know, they always say you have to dance I guess a reading into being, and you sang it into being. You kicked off this, and it couldn't have been better and more vital. So thank you once again, Peter Carlaftes and Cat Georges from New York City.
Thank you so much,
Harry. Really appreciate it.